Amidst the nose-diving relations between India and China since a deadly military clash on their Himalayan border in 2020, the world's two most populous countries are now involved in a row over visas for each other's journalists. The countries have ejected each other's journalists in the last few weeks, virtually wiping out mutual media access. India's foreign ministry has said that it hoped that Beijing would allow Indian journalists to continue to work in China. It has further said that New Delhi allows all foreign journalists to operate in India, and the Indian statement has come just 2 days after China said that it had taken some appropriate measures in response to India's treatment of Chinese journalists.
We would hope that Chinese authorities facilitate the continued presence of Indian journalists in working and reporting from China, and the two sides continue to remain in touch regarding this issue.
Now, the Indian Foreign Ministry spokesperson also spoke about how Indian journalists are facing several operational issues in China due to governmental policies. He said that this was even after India had allowed for full independence to foreign journalists to carry forth with their operations.
All foreign journalists, including Chinese journalists, have been pursuing journalist activities in India without any limitations or difficulties in reporting or in doing their media coverage. Meanwhile, Indian journalists in China have been operating with certain difficulties, such as not being permitted to hire locals as correspondents or as journalists.
According to reports, 2 Indian journalists in the month of April were barred from returning to their jobs in Beijing from India. The journalists were from The Hindu, which is one of India's largest newspapers, and also Prasar Bharati, which is New Delhi's state-owned public broadcaster. The accreditation of a third Indian journalist in China has also been revoked. China had at that time said that the action was a corresponding countermeasure to India's treatment of the Chinese journalists. That friction resurfaced this week after Beijing, in fact, refused to renew the visa of one of the 2 remaining Indian journalists in China. Beijing has said that this was also in response to India declining to renew the visas of the last 2 Chinese state media journalists in India. They were from the state-run Xinhua news agency and the China Central Television for the first time since at least the 1980s. What is interesting is that there are no remaining Chinese state media reporters in India and vice versa. Now, this is not the first time that China has cracked down on foreign journalists on its soil. In the early 2020s, China had expelled more than a dozen American reporters, including one from the Wall Street Journal. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.